The big spaceship called Phoenix floated quietly in the dark space. Inside, everything was silent and cold. Suddenly, a soft blue light turned on in one of the sleeping rooms. A large metal box slowly opened with a quiet hiss. Captain Jones' eyes blinked open. He felt confused and tired. His body felt heavy, like it was made of stone. He tried to sit up but couldn't move. A calm voice spoke from somewhere in the room. "Good morning, Captain June. Please stay still while your body wakes up. This may take a few minutes." June's mind was foggy. He tried to remember where he was and why he was there. Slowly, memories started to come back. Earth, destroyed. The last human ship, escaping. His job, to keep humanity alive. After a while, June could move his fingers, then his arms. Finally, he sat up in the box. He looked around the room. It was small and plain, with white walls and soft lights. "I report," Jun said, his voice rough from not being used for a long time. A screen on the wall lit up. A friendly face appeared. It was the ship's AI helper. "Welcome back, Captain," the AI said. "You have been asleep for a long time. Are you ready for the mission update?" June nodded, still feeling a bit dizzy. "The date is October 11, 5024. It has been 3,000 years since we left Earth." June's eyes went wide. 3,000 years? That can't be right. Check again. The AI's face looked sad. "I'm sorry, Captain. The information is correct. We traveled much farther than planned. There were problems." June tried to stand up. His legs felt weak, but he managed to get out of the box. He walked to a small window and looked out. The stars looked different. Nothing was familiar. "What problems?" June asked, his voice shaking a little. The AI explained. 200 years into our journey, we hit a space storm. It damaged our engines. We couldn't stop or change direction. We've been drifting through space all this time." June felt sick. He leaned against the wall. How many are left? Out of the original 10,000 people, 9,876 are still alive in cryosleep. We lost some due to system failures over the years. "I'm sorry, Captain." June closed his eyes. Each lost life felt like a heavy weight on his heart. He was responsible for them all. "Wake up the other leaders," June ordered. "We need to talk." Over the next hour, more people woke up. June met them in a big room with a round table. There was Ian, the scout leader, Sung, who knew how to fix the ship, Mina, who was in charge of weapons, and a few others. They all looked scared and confused. June told them what the AI had said. The room was quiet for a long time. Finally, Yun spoke up. "Captain, what do we do now? We're so far from where we were supposed to go. We don't know what's out here." June looked at each person in the room. They were waiting for him to have answers. But he felt lost too. "We do what we planned to do," Jum said, trying to sound sure. "We find a new home. We keep humanity alive." Sung raised his hand. "Captain, I checked the ship's systems. A lot of our stuff is old now. It might not work well. We need to be careful." Mina nodded. "Same with our weapons. We don't know what's out there. We might need to defend ourselves." June thought for a moment. "Okay, here's what we'll do. Ian, send out scout ships. Look for any planets we might be able to live on. Sung, check everything on the ship. Fix what you can. Mina, make sure we can protect ourselves if we need to." Everyone nodded. They had jobs to do. It made them feel a little better. As the meeting ended, the ship's AI spoke again. "Captain, there's something else you should know. I've detected signals. There might be other living things out there." The room went quiet again. June felt a mix of hope and fear. Other living things could mean help or danger. "All right," June said. "We'll be careful. But this might be our chance to find a new home. Let's get to work. The future of humanity depends on us." As everyone left to do their jobs, Jum stayed behind. He looked out a big window at the strange stars. Somewhere out there was the answer to their future. He just hoped they were ready for whatever they might find. A week had passed since Captain June and the others woke up. The big ship Phoenix was busy with people working hard. Everyone had a job to do. Lieutenant Yun stood in front of a small spaceship. It was one of the scout ships that would look for new places to live. She felt excited, but also a little scared. "Are you ready?" Captain June asked, walking up to her. Yun nodded. "Yes, sir. My team and I will search the nearby stars. We'll find a new home for our people." June put his hand on her shoulder. "Be careful out there. We don't know what's waiting for us." Yun and her team got into their ships. The doors of the big launch bay opened. With a roar, the scout ships flew out into space. For 3 days, Yun and her team looked at different stars and planets. They found nothing but empty rocks and gas giants. No place where humans could live. On the 4th day, something changed. Yun's ship computer started beeping. "What's that?" asked Kim, Yun's co-pilot. Yun looked at the screen. Her eyes got big. "It's a signal. From space. Someone's out there." They followed the signal to a nearby star system. As they got closer, they saw something amazing. There was a planet that looked a lot like Earth. It was blue and green with white clouds. But that wasn't all. Around the planet were many spaceships and stations. Someone lived here. "Look at that technology," Kim said, his voice full of wonder. "It's so advanced." Yun nodded. She was about to turn the ship around to report back when something caught her ear. The ship's computer was picking up alien voices. It was translating them into English. "Remember the great victory," one voice said, "when our ancestors destroyed the plague planet Earth." Yun and Kim looked at each other in shock. These aliens knew about Earth. They had destroyed it. "We need to tell the captain," Yun said. She turned the ship around and flew back to Phoenix as fast as she could. On the Phoenix, Captain June was in the control room. He was looking at reports from the other scout ships. None had found anything useful. He was starting to worry. Suddenly, a voice came over the speakers. "Phoenix, this is Lieutenant Yun. We're coming back. We found something. Something big." An hour later, Yun stood in front of Captain June and the other leaders. She told them everything she had seen and heard. The room was quiet for a long time. Everyone was trying to understand what this meant. Finally, Minna, the weapons expert, spoke up. "So the aliens who destroyed our home are still out there, and they're celebrating it." June nodded slowly. "It seems so. The question is, what do we do about it?" Sung, the engineer, raised his hand. "Captain, we're not ready for a fight. Our ship is old. Our weapons are old. Those aliens looked very advanced. But we can't just do nothing." Minna said, her voice angry. "They destroyed Earth. They killed billions of people. They have to pay for what they did." The room got loud as everyone started arguing. Some wanted to attack the aliens. Others wanted to run away and hide. "Quiet," June shouted. Everyone stopped talking and looked at him. June took a deep breath. "I understand how you all feel. I'm angry too. But we can't rush into this. We need to think carefully." He turned to Yun. "Did the aliens see you?" Yun shook her head. "No, sir. We stayed hidden." June nodded. "Good. That gives us time to plan." He looked at each person in the room. "Here's what we'll do. Sung, start working on upgrading our ship and weapons. Use everything we've learned in the last 3,000 years." Sung nodded, already thinking of ideas. "Minna, help Sung. Make our weapons as strong as you can." Minna smiled, happy to have a job that might lead to revenge. "Yun, take your team back out. Learn everything you can about these aliens. But don't let them see you." "Yes, sir," Yun said. June stood up straighter. "Everyone else, prepare our people. We might have to fight. But we might also have a chance to build a new home. As everyone left to do their jobs, Jun stayed behind. He looked out at the stars again. I don't know if you can hear me, he said quietly. But if the spirits of Earth are out there, guide us. Help us do the right thing. For the memory of our home and for the future of our people. With a deep breath, Jun turned and walked out. The real work was just beginning. The big ship Phoenix was no longer quiet. For weeks, the sound of work filled every room. Captain Jun walked through the halls, watching his people prepare. In a large room full of computers, Jun found Sung. The chief engineer was working hard, his eyes red from lack of sleep. How's it going? Jun asked. Sung looked up and smiled. Good, Captain. We're making progress. Look at this. He pressed a button, and a big screen lit up. It showed plans for the Phoenix. But the ship looked different now. We're using the knowledge from our long sleep, Sung explained. New metals that are stronger, better engines that are faster. The Phoenix will be a new ship when we're done. Jun nodded, impressed. How long until it's ready? Sung thought for a moment. 2 more weeks, maybe 3. We're working as fast as we can. Good work, Jun said. He left Sung to his work and went to find Mina. He found the weapons specialist in a big room that looked like a shooting range. But instead of guns, there were strange devices Jun had never seen before. Mina was holding one of these devices. It looked like a small box with a glowing blue light. What's that? Jun asked. Mina grinned. This, Captain, is our new secret weapon. Watch. She pointed the device at a metal target. She pressed a button. There was a soft hum, then a flash of light. The metal target disappeared. Jun's eyes went wide. Where did it go? Nowhere, Mina said. It's gone. This weapon breaks things down to their smallest parts. It can destroy anything. Jun felt a mix of awe and fear. That's incredible and dangerous. Mina nodded. Yes, it is. But we need every advantage we can get. Jun left the weapons room, his mind racing. Their technology was advancing so fast. But was it enough? He went to the control room. Lieutenant Yun was there, looking at star maps. Any news? Jun asked. Yun nodded. Yes, Captain. We've learned a lot about the aliens. They call themselves the Vex. They have many planets, not just the one we found. She pointed to different spots on the star map. They're spread out across this whole area of space. Millions of them, maybe billions. Jun felt a chill. There were so many of them, and so few humans left. What about their defenses? He asked. Yun brought up a new image. It showed the alien ships and stations around their planets. They're strong, she said, but they're not ready for a fight. They think they're safe. They don't know we're here. Jun thought hard. They had surprise on their side. But was it enough? He called a meeting with all the leaders. They gathered around a big table, looking at all the information they had. We need to decide, Jun said. Do we attack? Try to talk? Or find a new home somewhere else? The room was quiet. Everyone knew how important this choice was. Mina spoke first. We should attack. They destroyed our home. We can't let that go. Sung shook his head. It's too dangerous. There are too many of them. We should find a new home far away. Yun looked thoughtful. Maybe we can talk to them. Find out why they attacked Earth. Maybe it was a mistake. They argued for hours. Attack, hide, or talk. No one could agree. Finally, Jun stood up. Everyone got quiet, waiting to hear what he would say. I've made a decision, he said. His voice was firm. We won't run away. We won't just talk. We'll make them remember why they should fear humans. He looked at each person in the room. We'll call it Operation Nemesis. We'll strike hard and fast. Show them our power. Then we'll talk. From a position of strength. The room was silent for a moment. Then Mina started to clap. Others joined in. Soon, everyone was cheering. Joan raised his hand for quiet. This won't be easy. We might not all survive, but we'll make sure humanity has a future where we're strong, where no one can threaten us again. He took a deep breath. Let's get to work. We have a lot to do, and not much time. For Earth, for humanity, for our future. As everyone left to prepare, Jum stayed behind. He looked at the star map, at the alien world spread out before him. I hope we're doing the right thing, he whispered to himself. But there was no turning back now. The die was cast. Operation Nemesis was about to begin. The Phoenix moved slowly through space. It looked different now. The ship was bigger, with new parts that glowed with strange lights. Captain June stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. We're almost there, Lieutenant Yun said. She pointed to a bright dot on the screen. That's the main planet of the Vex. June nodded. His heart was beating fast. This was the moment they had been preparing for. Send the message, he ordered. Yun pressed some buttons. A signal went out from the Phoenix, heading towards the alien planet. On the Vex homeworld, alarms started to sound. The aliens had never seen a ship like the Phoenix before. They didn't know what to do. In a big room full of screens, the Vex leader, Krell, was shouting orders. Find out what that thing is. Is it dangerous? Why didn't we see it coming? No one had answers. The Vex had been safe for so long, they weren't ready for surprises. Suddenly, all the screens in the room changed. A face appeared. It was Captain June. People of the Vex, June said. His voice was calm but strong. I am Captain June of the human ship Phoenix. We have come to talk. The room went very quiet. The Vex looked at each other in shock. Humans? But that was impossible. Krell stepped forward. This is some kind of trick, he said. The humans are gone. They disappeared long ago. June's face got harder. No trick, Krell of the Vex. We survived. We slept for 3,000 years. And now we're back. Krell felt afraid, but he tried not to show it. What do you want? He asked. Justice, June said. For Earth. For our people. We know what you did. The Vex in the room started to whisper to each other. Some looked guilty. Others looked angry. Krell raised his hands. Please, let's not be hasty. This is all a misunderstanding. Why don't you come down to our planet? We can talk face to face. June thought for a moment. Was this a trap? But they needed to meet the Vex up close. Agreed, June said. We'll come down in a small ship. Be ready. The screen went dark. Krell turned to his advisors. Prepare for their arrival. And get our weapons ready, just in case. On the Phoenix, Jum gathered his team. Mina, Sung, and Eun would go with him to the planet. Remember, Jum said, we're here to talk first, but be ready for anything. They got into a small ship and flew down to the Vex planet. As they got closer, they saw huge cities stretching across the land. The Vex civilization was big and advanced. The human ship landed in a large open area. Crowds of Vex had gathered to watch. They had never seen humans before. June and his team stepped out of the ship. The Vex whispered and pointed. The humans looked so different from them. Krell walked up to meet them. He was tall, with blue skin and big eyes. He tried to smile, but he looked nervous. Welcome to our world, Krell said. We have much to discuss. June nodded. Yes, we do. Starting with why you destroyed our home. Krell's smile disappeared. That was a long time ago. Things were different then. Not so long for us, Mina said. Her hand was close to her weapon. Sun looked around at the Vex technology. You've built a lot with what you stole from us, he said. Krell started to look angry. We built this ourselves. We didn't steal anything. Eun stepped forward. We heard your people talking. You celebrate destroying Earth. You call it a victory. The crowd of Vex started to get louder. Some looked ashamed. Others looked proud. Krell raised his hands. Please, let's not fight. Come, we have a place ready to talk. We can explain everything. June looked at his team. They all nodded. Lead the way, June said. As they walked, June looked at the Vex city. It was beautiful, but all he could think about was Earth. The home they had lost. The people who had died. I hope this talk goes well, June thought. But if it doesn't, we're ready. They entered a big building. The door closed behind them. The fate of two civilizations was about to be decided. Captain June and his team sat across from Krell and the Vex leaders. They were in a big room with tall windows. Outside, they could see the Vex city stretching far away. Explain, June said. His voice was hard. Why did you destroy Earth? Krell looked nervous. It was a mistake. We didn't mean to destroy your whole planet. Minna stood up, angry. A mistake. Billions of people died. Krell held up his hands. Please, let me explain. We thought Earth was empty. We needed resources. We didn't know humans were there. June shook his head. That's hard to believe. Earth was full of life. How could you not know? Before Krell could answer, a young Vex ran into the room. He whispered something in Krell's ear. Krell's face changed. He looked worried. What is it? Eon asked. She didn't like how Krell looked. Krell stood up slowly. I'm sorry, but this meeting is over. You need to leave. Now. Some stepped forward. What's going on? We're not finished talking. Krell's voice got hard. Yes, we are. Guards, take them away. Suddenly, the room was full of Vex soldiers. They had strange weapons pointed at the humans. June looked at Krell. So this is how you treat guests? With lies and threats. Krell shook his head. You're not guests. You're a threat. We can't let you leave. You know too much. Minna smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I was hoping you'd try something like this, she said. She pressed a button on her wrist. There was a bright flash of light. When it cleared, all the Vex weapons were gone. The Vex soldiers looked at their empty hands, confused. Krell's eyes were wide with fear. How? How did you do that? He asked. June stood up. He looked strong and dangerous. We've had 3,000 years to get better. Did you think we'd come here weak? Outside, there was a loud boom. The windows shook. Everyone ran to look out. In the sky, they saw the Phoenix. It was shooting at Vex ships. But the Vex ships were exploding before the shots even hit them. Impossible, Krell whispered. Eon smiled. Not impossible. Just good planning. June turned to Krell. This is your last chance. Tell your people to stand down. Let's talk for real this time. But Krell was too afraid to think clearly. Never, he shouted. All ships, attack the human vessel. More Vex ships flew up from the planet. They shot at the Phoenix. But nothing happened. The big human ship was protected by some kind of shield. Some looked at a small screen on his arm. Captain, the Phoenix reports all systems working perfectly. The Vex weapons can't hurt us. June nodded. He looked sad. I didn't want it to be this way, he said. Then he spoke into a small device on his collar. Phoenix, you have permission to fire. Target their defense systems only. The Phoenix started shooting again. This time, explosions happened all over the Vex city, but only on tall towers and big buildings. No homes were hit. Krell watched in horror as his city's defenses fell apart. In just a few minutes, the Vex were helpless. June looked at Krell. Now, are you ready to talk? Or do we need to show you more of what we can do? Krell fell into a chair. He looked old and tired now. How? He asked. How are you so powerful? Minna laughed. We had a long time to think about how to beat you, she said. Destroying our home was the biggest mistake you ever made. June walked to the window. He watched as Vex ships fell from the sky, disabled but not destroyed. I didn't want to fight, June said quietly, but you gave us no choice. Now, You'll listen to us. You'll make things right." He turned back to Krell and the other Vex. "Your people took our home. Now you're going to help us build a new one. And you're going to make sure no one ever forgets what happened to Earth." The Vex leaders looked at each other. They knew they had lost. The humans were too strong. What do you want us to do?" Krell asked. June's face was serious. "First, you're going to tell us the truth. All of it. Then, we'll decide what happens next." As the humans waited for the Vex to start talking, June thought about Earth, about all the people who had died. He hoped they would be proud of what he and his team had done. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. The big room was quiet. Captain June and his team sat on one side of a long table. Krell and the Vex leaders sat on the other side. Everyone looked tired. "Start talking," June said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard. Krell took a deep breath. "It started 3,000 years ago," he began. "Our planet was dying. We needed a new home." Eon leaned forward. "So you decided to take Earth?" Krell shook his head. "No, not at first. We were looking for empty planets, ones without life. But Earth was full of life," Sung said. He sounded angry. "We didn't know," Krell said. He looked sad. "Our scanners, they were wrong. They said Earth was empty." Minna hit the table with her hand. "How could you make such a big mistake?" Krell jumped at the noise. We don't know. Maybe our machines were broken. Maybe we read them wrong. We were desperate." June stood up. He walked to a big window and looked out at the Vex city. "What happened next?" he asked. Krell's voice got quieter. "We sent a ship to Earth. It was supposed to start making the planet ready for us to live there. And instead, it destroyed everything," Yun said. Krell nodded. "The ship's weapons were too strong. By the time we realized there were people on Earth, it was too late." The room was quiet again. Everyone was thinking about what Krell had said. Suddenly, there was a noise from Sung's bag. He pulled out a small machine. It was beeping and flashing. "What's that?" June asked. Sung looked excited. "It's picking up old data signals from the Vex computers." Eon moved to look at the machine. "Can you read what it says?" Sung pressed some buttons. "I think so. Give me a minute." Everyone waited. The Vex looked nervous. June watched them carefully. After a few minutes, Sung looked up. His face was pale. "Captain," he said, "you need to see this." June walked over. He looked at the screen on Sung's machine. His eyes got wide. "Are you sure this is right?" June asked. Sung nodded. "Yes, Captain. I checked 3 times." June turned to the Vex. His face was angry now. "You lied to us," he said. Krell looked confused. "What? No, we told you the truth." June shook his head. "This data shows your scanners worked perfectly. You knew Earth had life. You knew there were billions of people there." The other humans gasped. Mina reached for her weapon. Krell jumped up. "No, that's not possible." Eon looked at the data. "It's all here," she said. "You knew about humans. You decided to attack anyway." June's voice got very quiet. It was scarier than if he had yelled. "Why?" he asked. "Why did you really destroy Earth?" Krell fell back into his chair. He looked defeated. "We were afraid," he whispered. "Afraid?" Minna asked. "Of what?" "Of you. Of humans," Krell said. "We saw how fast you were growing, how smart you were. We thought you might become a threat to us one day." The humans couldn't believe what they were hearing. "So you killed billions of innocent people because you were scared of what might happen?" Sung asked. Krell nodded. He couldn't look at the humans. "We thought it was the only way to keep ourselves safe," he said. June walked back to the window. He stood there for a long time, just looking out at the Vex world. Finally, he turned around. "Do your people know this?" he asked Krell. Krell shook his head. No, only the leaders know the truth. Everyone else thinks it was an accident. June looked at his team. They all looked angry and sad. What do you think we should do? He asked them. Mina spoke first. They don't deserve mercy, she said. They killed our people. Ian disagreed. But if we destroy them, how are we any better? Sung nodded. We came here for justice, not revenge, he said. June thought about everything that had happened. About Earth and all the people who had died. About the long sleep in space. About the Vex and their terrible secret. He made his decision. Get ready, he told his team. We're going to tell everyone the truth, the Vex, and what's left of humanity. They all deserve to know what really happened. Krell looked scared. What will you do to us? He asked. June's face was serious. That depends on what your people decide when they learn the truth. But one way or another, things are going to change. As June and his team prepared to reveal the truth to both civilizations, they knew that the hardest part of their mission was just beginning. The big square in the Vex city was full of people. Vex from all over the planet had come to hear the news. On one side of the square, a giant screen showed the faces of Captain June and Krell. June looked at the crowd. He took a deep breath and began to speak. People of the Vex, he said, and to all humans watching from the Phoenix, today you will learn the truth about what happened to Earth. For the next hour, June and Krell told the whole story. They explained how the Vex had really known about humans, how they had chosen to attack Earth out of fear. The crowd was quiet at first. Then they started to make noise. Some Vex cried. Others looked angry. A few shouted at Krell and the other leaders. On the Phoenix, the human survivors watched in silence. Many of them cried too, remembering the home they had lost. When the story was finished, Jun spoke again. Now you know the truth, he said. But knowing is not enough. We must decide what to do next. Krell stepped forward. He looked old and tired. I and the other leaders will accept any punishment you think is fair, he said. Jun shook his head. Punishment is easy, he said, but it doesn't fix what's broken. We need to find a way to move forward. Together. The crowd got quiet again. They were surprised. They had expected the humans to want revenge. June continued, we can't bring back Earth. We can't bring back the billions who died. But we can honor their memory by building a better future. He looked at Krell. The Vex have lived with this lie for 3,000 years. Now, you have a chance to make things right. Krell nodded slowly. What do you suggest? He asked. June smiled for the first time in a long while. Let's build a new home, not just for humans or just for Vex, but for both of us. The crowd started to talk excitedly. June held up his hand for quiet. We have knowledge from Earth that was lost to time, he said. You have technology that has grown over 3,000 years. Together, we can create something amazing. Over the next few weeks, humans and Vex worked together. They found a new planet, one that was like Earth, but bigger. They called it New Hope. Sung and Vex engineers designed new ships and buildings. Yulin and Vex scientists studied the new planet, making sure it was safe for both species. Mina worked with Vex security teams. She taught them about human history, about wars and peace. Together, they made plans to protect their new home. June and Krell led the way. They showed their people how to work together, how to trust each other again. It wasn't always easy. Sometimes, humans and Vex argued. Old fears and anger came back. But each time, they found a way to move past it. 1 year after the humans had first arrived, June stood on a hill on New Hope. He looked out at the new city they were building. Humans and Vex worked side by side, creating homes and farms and schools. Krell walked up to stand next to him. Do you think we did the right thing? He asked. June thought for a moment. I think we're trying to, he said. That's all anyone can do. They watched as a group of children ran by. Some were human, some were Vex. They were playing together, laughing. "Look at them," Joan said. "They don't see humans and Vex. They just see friends." Krell nodded. "Maybe that's the real victory," he said. "Not defeating an enemy, but making a friend." June smiled. He thought about Earth, about the long journey through space, about all the hard choices and battles. "We can't change the past," he said, "but we can learn from it. We can make sure the future is better." As the sun set on New Hope, June felt at peace for the first time in 3,000 years. The humans had returned to avenge Earth, but in the end, they had found something more important: a new beginning. And as the first stars came out, shining on humans and Vex alike, June knew that the real adventure was just beginning.